Welcome to Life Stories. Today I share a deeply personal journey, a story of heartbreak, betrayal, and the courage to reclaim my worth. From being deliberately excluded by my own family to uncovering shocking legal manipulations designed to strip away my rightful inheritance, every painful moment taught me the power of setting boundaries and honoring my truth. This narrative is not just about conflict, but about finding strength, resilience, and the beauty of genuine connection. Join me as we explore these profound lessons and begin our journey toward healing. Please subscribe to our channel to start the story today. I still remember that chilly autumn afternoon when I arrived at the Lakeview retreat, my heart full of cautious hope. With my weekend bag slung over my shoulder, I stepped into the grand lobby, a place that once promised comfort and warmth. However, as soon as I reached the polished marble counter, the receptionist's pitying glance and the single key slid across to me told me everything I needed to know. "Miss Turner, your parents mentioned there would be 4 of you in the suite," she said, her words hanging in the air like a subtle accusation. I felt a chill far deeper than the autumn breeze outside. I had planned to join my family that very day, a day I had circled on my calendar with anticipation and a hint of anxiety. I had rearranged my work schedule, arranged care for my children, Ethan and Olivia, and set out on what I believed was our annual family reunion. Yet, as I stood alone in that vast lobby, a sinking feeling took hold. I learned later from a quick text that my parents and my sister Brittany's family had already been there since the previous evening. The revelation that I had been left behind was not just a scheduling mishap, it was deliberate. At the welcome dinner that evening, as I hesitated at the doorway of the bustling dining room, I could sense the undercurrent of something amiss. My parents' expressions were too carefully neutral, and Brittany's family seemed engrossed in their own world. When I finally found a moment to speak, the conversation turned cold. My nephew casually remarked, "Mom said it was a test to see if you'd really want to be part of the family," as if it were a trivial observation. Those words, delivered with the innocent bluntness only a child can muster, struck me like a heavy blow. In that moment, all the years of subtle exclusion and the quiet favoritism my family had always shown towards Brittany converged into a single, piercing clarity. I recalled countless occasions when I had felt like an outsider, where my presence was acknowledged, but my participation was never fully welcomed. The coldness in my parents' tone and the dismissive wave from Brittany left me feeling not only abandoned, but also profoundly betrayed. It was as if I had been set up, my arrival deliberately delayed, so that I would have to prove my commitment to a family that had long taken me for granted. Emotion welled up inside me, an intricate mixture of sadness, anger, and a deep sense of isolation. I felt as though I had been cast aside, my worth measured against an unspoken standard that I had continually failed to meet. The realization was both bitter and illuminating. It forced me to confront the painful truth that love and inclusion in my family were not unconditional, but were earned through relentless efforts to fit into a mold that had been crafted without me in mind. That night, as I lay awake in the unfamiliar quiet of the suite that was meant for 4, I pondered the profound lessons of that day. It wasn't just about a miscommunicated arrival time or an accidental oversight. It was a test of loyalty, of sacrifice, and ultimately, of self-worth. And while the sting of exclusion was palpable, it also sparked within me a long overdue desire for authenticity. I realized that the love I had so desperately sought might never be fully reciprocated if it was contingent upon an endless cycle of proving myself. In that reflective silence, I made a quiet vow to never again allow myself to be diminished by the expectations of others, even if they were my own family. The shock from that evening at the Lakeview retreat lingered long after I left, twisting in my gut like an unspoken betrayal. I had spent that night in a state of restless reflection, and the next morning, an unexpected envelope waiting in the suite's small dining area deepened my dismay. It was a document titled "Amendment to the Turner Family Trust." At first glance, it appeared to be routine legal paperwork until I read its contents. The realization struck me hard. The document was designed to strip me of any claim to our cherished family lake house, redirecting my rightful share entirely to Brittany. In that moment, the subtle exclusion I'd felt for years transformed into an unmistakable act of calculated deception. My family, it seemed, had not only tested my commitment with their delayed arrival, but now sought to marginalize me through legal subterfuge. The weight of this betrayal, mingled with a surge of indignation, left me reeling. How could the people who were supposed to love and support me treat me as if my presence was optional? I reached out immediately to my trusted friend Lucas Mitchell, whose calm pragmatism and legal insight had guided me through many turbulent moments. Lucas listened intently as I recounted the discovery. His eyes, always so empathetic, mirrored my own dismay. "This isn't just about money, Casey," he said quietly. "It's about the affirmation of your worth in a family that seems to have long forgotten it." His words resonated deeply, stirring a determination I had long tried to suppress. I contacted my attorney without delay, and over the next few days, a series of tense phone calls and consultations ensued. Every conversation peeled back layers of manipulation. I learned that my family had also attached a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, to this legal maneuver, an attempt to silence me and obscure the blatant favoritism that had pervaded our relationships for so many years. The prospect of signing away my right to speak the truth was repugnant. It was as if they wanted to rewrite history, erasing every moment of exclusion and invalidation I had endured. As the legal battle loomed, I found myself oscillating between a profound sense of loss and a burgeoning resolve. I began documenting every conversation, every text, every instance of disregard, determined to hold on to the truth of my experience. The more I delved into the legal implications, the clearer it became. This was not merely an inheritance dispute, but a desperate bid to control our family narrative, to ensure that I remained the perpetual outsider, forever questioning my own worth. In those late evenings, while the world outside lay hushed and reflective, I would sit by my desk and pore over the dense legal language, finding in its cold lines a mirror to the emotional frost that had settled over my relationships. And yet, amid the bitterness, a spark of hope began to kindle, a belief that asserting my rights could pave the way for reclaiming my identity. I was not going to allow my voice to be muted, nor would I consent to a fate that denied the love and respect I deserved. That realization, as painful as it was, marked the beginning of a journey towards self-empowerment and honest confrontation. The days that followed the legal upheaval were filled with a slow, simmering tension that seeped into every corner of my life. The planned family reunion that was meant to bridge old wounds became instead the arena for a final, decisive confrontation. My parents' relentless pressure to conform reached its peak at an anniversary dinner meant to celebrate their 40 years of marriage. I was asked repeatedly to put aside the recent betrayals, to act as though nothing had happened. Yet, deep within me, the wounds of exclusion and manipulation refused to heal silently. That evening, as I prepared to leave my modest home for the dinner, my heart was a conflicted battleground of sorrow and resolve. I knew that stepping into that hall of forced cheer would mean surrendering a piece of my truth. The dinner was a scene of orchestrated warmth. My parents, dressed immaculately, greeted guests with practiced smiles, while Brittany moved about with a self-assured ease that only deepened my isolation. The conversations were punctuated by subtle, yet piercing reminders of my lateness and inconvenience. Every remark was a reminder of how my commitment had been questioned, of how my very presence was deemed less significant. I finally reached a breaking point when, in the midst of a pre-dinner toast, I could bear no more. In a clear, unguarded moment, I spoke up. I told them that I could not, in good conscience, join a celebration that felt predicated on testing my loyalty. I expressed, with as much calm conviction as I could muster, that the love and respect I craved could never be achieved by sacrificing my own identity or silencing the painful memories of exclusion. My words, raw and unfiltered, hung heavily in the room. There was shock, then defensiveness, and finally a pregnant silence that spoke volumes. That confrontation was more than a single outburst. It was the culmination of years of quiet suffering and self-doubt. I made it clear that I was no longer willing to compromise my self-worth to fit into a family narrative that had long marginalized me. I vowed to honor my own feelings and to model for Ethan and Olivia, my little beacons of hope, the courage to stand for what is right, even if it means standing alone. This was not an act of rebellion for rebellion's sake, but a necessary assertion of boundaries that had been neglected for far too long. In the days that followed, the tension did not dissipate immediately. Instead, it transformed into a series of guarded exchanges, punctuated by sporadic attempts from my parents to reestablish contact. They sent messages laden with thinly veiled guilt and remorse, yet no genuine acknowledgement of the hurt they had caused. I remained steadfast, my decision clear. My boundaries were not negotiable. The legal battles, the NDA threats, and the emotional manipulations had all been a means to control my voice, and I had finally reclaimed it. Looking back, the confrontation was a turning point. Painful, yes, but also profoundly liberating. I realized that true healing does not come from forced reconciliation, but from honoring one's truth and having the courage to insist on mutual respect. With each day, I grew more determined to build relationships rooted in honesty and empathy, both for myself and for the future I envisioned for my children. As I reflect on the journey that brought me here, I realize that every painful moment was a stepping stone toward reclaiming my truth. The legal battles, the family confrontations, and the silent treatments have all shaped me into someone who now stands with unwavering resolve and dignity. I learned that true healing emerges not from forced reconciliation, but from the courage to set firm boundaries and honor one's own worth. I discovered that real change starts within, by refusing to accept less than the respect and empathy every person deserves. My children, Ethan and Olivia, are the living proof of this transformation. Their innocent smiles and resilient spirits remind me daily that we are capable of forging a path built on honesty and love, even when the road is fraught with heartache. In choosing to speak my truth, I have also chosen a future where our family legacy is defined not by manipulation or favoritism, but by genuine care and understanding. Though my parents have yet to fully comprehend the impact of their actions, this chapter has irrevocably altered our relationship. I now know that while I cannot change the past, I can influence the future by modeling the self-respect and courage I wish my children to inherit. I remain open to healing, but only on my terms, where mutual respect and honest communication guide our interactions. Thank you for accompanying me on this journey of self-discovery and transformation. If you found my story meaningful, please subscribe to our channel to follow new videos of life stories. Your support means the world to us as we continue to explore the profound lessons life has to offer.